Okay, I'm kind of terrified, but also kind of really impressed by Neuralink. Recently, there's been a video that's come out where this guy controls a chessboard on a computer just using his mind. This is somebody that's paralyzed and otherwise could obviously never play chess. And this video has me feeling some type of way. I don't know whether I should be extremely excited, scared, horny. I don't know. That last one was wild. But basically, for those of you that don't know what Neuralink is, if you're living under a rock, I guess. It's basically this chip that Elon Musk and his team over at Neuralink created that goes into your mind, and I don't really know how else to explain it, but basically it gives you mind control. Like, it allows you to control a computer with your mind. Apparently, the goal that Elon Musk has said before is that one day he wants people to have the ability to be able to communicate with each other only using your mind. No words, just like if I'm thinking like red potato and then we both have Neuralinks, we're both understanding that I'm trying to say red potato to you, random example. And well, recently there was this really crazy breakthrough for them where they actually implanted the first Neuralink into somebody's mind, somebody that was paralyzed. And as I said before, he could basically control a chessboard on a computer only using his mind. So it's kind of hard to like visualize this, but imagine like there's a chessboard in front of us. I can't move. I can't like really do anything with my hands, but my mind is telling me move the pawn 2 spaces forward. And then it'll be able to understand literally which pawn I'm talking about on the chessboard just from my thoughts and move it forward 2 spaces. Now, I do think that this is like an insane breakthrough for science and technology. Like, I mean, obviously it is probably one of the craziest things that's happened to humanity, and not a lot of people are talking about it. But I also think this opens us up to some pretty crazy and scary futures. I mean, I think, honestly, the first use cases for this are going to be for people that are paralyzed. And apparently they're trying to make it so that people that are paralyzed will be able to get full control over their arms, legs, like their body parts, that's incredible. Like, Elon Musk, good on you, man. That's something that's like literally science fiction that I never thought in my lifetime would happen. But if you start to think deeper and deeper and really try to see what they're trying to do, I think it gets a little terrifying. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I always go to the example of like us all having smartphones now and being able, I mean, the cool thing about like a smartphone is like I could turn it off, put it in another room, get rid of it. Once this chip goes in your mind, there's no getting rid of it. You got a chip in your mind now, you know? And so I always think about like myself when I was younger. I would have some pretty crazy thoughts. I mean, everybody has some pretty crazy thoughts, you know? Like, maybe you thought that your 5th grade teacher was hot. Now imagine you and your 5th grade teacher now have a Neuralink, and the 5th grade teacher understands that you think that they're hot, literally right on the spot. Like, how would they even react to that? I don't know. That's crazy example, crazy random example. But I think as this becomes more and more mainstream, it's going to be a really, really weird thing. And I simply don't think enough people are talking about just how insane that this truly can be. So obviously, communication of the mind is like the first thing that comes to me, and then I immediately think about like them trying to make money off of it, and like advertising is gonna be like on another level. Could you imagine you're like in the middle of a movie trying to watch the movie, and then an ad comes up and it's just like, buy our product now. Oh, sign up for Ozempic right now in the middle of your movie, and you just can't like turn it off. Imagine the unskip. Do not let YouTube get a hold of this. Could you imagine the unskippable ads on your link? Oh my God, it would be crazy. Now, another thing that I like to think of with like these types of technologies is just how, you know, everybody's gonna one day probably have it, and just how much you're gonna be left behind if you don't have one. So that's something that like the phone kind of showed us, but now it's something literally being installed into your mind. So I think it's gonna be like at a point where everybody kind of has to have one to keep up in society. Like, if you don't have a Neuralink, could you imagine trying to apply for a job and then the job's like, nope, you don't have one of these chips in your head, so we can't hire you. You're just not as productive as the next guy, you know? So as cool as it can be for society, it's also obviously terrifying, and I really wonder how they're going to make it so that these, you know, these terrible cases don't happen. Like, could you, like, you don't want anybody in control of your mind. I don't care if they're the smartest and richest person on earth. If they have direct control into your mind, like, could you imagine if they could even like implant ideas into your mind that you wouldn't have even thought of before, or like get you to do things through the neurons in your brain? I'm not a neurologist. I don't know how brains really work, but I do think that this is something that could definitely be possible if you have literally a path to the neurons in somebody's brain. You could like embed any idea into them. You could go tell them to go commit a crime. You could go tell them to like go rob a bank for you and then bring you your money. Like, obviously, like, Elon Musk probably wouldn't do that. He has probably enough money on his own already, but this is like the ultimate form of controlling somebody. Now, I know obviously it's probably not going to be used for that, especially in the beginning. Like, people are going to be able to like have crazy scientific and medical breakthroughs with it. Like, the biggest example that I hear floating around is like, once again, the paralyzed person being able to like have control of their limbs and their brain, like being rewired to a way where like they're not paralyzed anymore. They're just no longer paralyzed. It's like a scientific miracle. But with everything, there's going to be bad actors. And I think that like hacking would be a crazy thing too. Like, if somebody hacks into your mind, that is so different from like hacking into your phone or like your bank or whatever it is. But like hacking into somebody's mind is just absolutely insane. And I always think about like, where does this stop? Like, what if we all have Neuralinks in our mind? What's going to be like the next thing? Like, what is going to be the thing that like evolves from having literally all of the world's information? This is something I didn't even talk about already. Like, you would have the entire history of humanity's information at a literally touch in your brain. Like, you'll know, like, imagine like you're trying to read 20 encyclopedias. Like, now with a Neuralink, you could probably just snap your finger in like 20 years and you have all of that information stored in your mind. So rip having historians. I don't know, we're all just gonna know everything, which is like, at that point, do we even really know anything? That's crazy to think about. I don't even know if what I just said made sense, but the point still stands. If this is the future we're building towards, and especially, could you imagine like having a Neuralink paired with like an AI in your mind? Like, I don't even know like what that looks like or if that even makes sense. But like, if this is the future we're building towards, we're all probably just building towards becoming robots. Like, I don't know how else to say it, but like, I think of the phone as like a really good example of like, oh, 30, 40 years ago, you couldn't go contact somebody across the world. And now you can just pick up your phone, literally at a fingertips touch, just call them up and be like, oh, what's up, Patty? How you doing? Now you just think about Patty and you're literally transmitting a thought to their Neuralink, and you're going to be like, oh, Patty, how are you doing? And then Patty's like, oh, hey, how are you doing? And you're like, Patty, I think you're attractive. Dang it, I didn't mean to have that thought. And then you have that thought, and then all of a sudden it's game over. Like, you blew your shot with Patty over across the world, you know? Something else that's kind of funny to me is like celebrities. Like, imagine like, I mean, there's probably going to be like a block feature or something on this. I don't know, I'm getting way too sci-fi right now, but I like to imagine these things. Imagine like trying to communicate with Will Smith, and you're just like constantly saying to like in your mind, L plus ratio Will Smith, L plus ratio Will Smith, L plus ratio Will Smith, and then Will Smith just getting these like thoughts transacted to him through the Neuralink, and he's like, okay, block this guy, and knowing Elon Musk, you're not going to be able to block people on Neuralink, so we're going to have to deal with the kids that say L plus ratio all the time to your mind. But at the end of the day, you know, this is why I'm torn. It's going to be an incredible scientific breakthrough. Definitely don't want this to get into the hands of the wrong person, because that would be insane. Like a hacker getting a Neuralink before everyone else, and they just all of a sudden know how to control people's mind, or I don't know. This is a weird world we live in. I mean, like, I think about it, I'm talking to my camera right now. Like, I really wonder what the future holds, and it just feels like everything's evolving so quickly. It's crazy how like the first human trials have already happened for this thing, and then imagine a year from now, like what it's going to look like if like 10 different people have Neuralink. So I guess we're in for quite a ride. If you're new, like and subscribe to the channel. This is a brand new channel, and comment what you think about Neuralink. I love you guys. Peace.